Welcome to Smiley Toon TV, the place where creativity meets joy. We explore fascinating ideas, ignite your imagination, and spark positive thinking, all with a smile. Ready to embark on a fun journey of discovery? Let's get started and fill your mind with happiness and inspiration. Once there was a little girl named Emma who loved nothing more than drawing. From the moment she could hold a crayon, she filled every scrap of paper she found with colors and shapes, her imagination flowing freely. Emma didn't wait for her drawings to be perfect. She simply loved the swirl of color and the stories her pictures told. Emma's room was a bright, messy garden of paint jars and pencils, and her fingers were always stained with splashes of watercolor or smudges of charcoal. Some days, she'd spend hours carefully shaping the curve of a smiling sunbeam. Other days, she'd doodle quick sketches of her cat, Pepper, leaping across fantastical landscapes. One morning, as the sun peeked through her curtains, Emma was sitting at her easel, working on her latest masterpiece. A magical forest with animals dancing under a starry sky. She couldn't quite get the owl's wings right, but each time she tried, she learned a new way to shade or swoop her pencil. Lost in her drawing, Emma hardly noticed the passing time. That afternoon, Emma's best friend Maya visited. The two girls often drew together, swapping stories behind every picture. Today, Maya brought her brother Lucas, who loved soccer but didn't care much for art. As Emma eagerly showed her glittering, half-finished forest, Lucas wrinkled his nose. He pointed to the lopsided deer and said, "That doesn't look real. Its head is too big, and its legs are wobbly." Emma's cheeks flushed. She looked at her deer. Lucas was right. It didn't look like a real deer. For a moment, she wondered if she should stop drawing altogether. Maybe art just wasn't her thing. Maya saw Emma's frown and gave her hand a gentle squeeze. But then, Emma remembered something her teacher had said at school. Mistakes don't mean you failed. They mean you're learning. That night, Emma sat at her desk. She studied the deer and tried drawing it again. Thinking carefully about what she'd learned from her earlier attempts, she pulled out a book about animals and looked closely at their shapes. She looked at pictures online, noticing how real deer carried their heads and where their legs bent. With every new drawing, she improved just a little bit. The next day, Emma brought her notebook to school for art class. The teacher, Mrs. Lee, asked everyone to draw something they loved. Emma quickly sketched her magical forest, but this time, she remembered what she had learned. Her deer looked a little more balanced, its legs stood firmer, and the wings of her owl arched gracefully into the sky. When Emma finished, she felt proud. Not because her drawing was perfect, but because she had practiced. She had tried, failed, learned, and tried again. That felt even better than getting it right the first time. At lunch, some classmates gathered around to see her drawing. Lucas glanced over and shrugged. "Still looks weird," he muttered, but his voice was quieter now. Maya, on the other hand, grinned. "Emma, every time you draw, you get better. Remember when we couldn't tell what those birds were last month? Now I can see they're owls with shimmering wings." Emma beamed. She realized that every mistake she had made before was just a step on her path to getting better. If she'd given up after someone didn't like her art, she would never have discovered how much she could learn by keeping at it. She thought about how Maya had improved at soccer by practicing every day after school. Practice, she realized, could make her stronger, braver, and happier. Not perfect, but better than before. After school, Emma saw Lucas sitting sadly by himself. He looked frustrated, fiddling with a soccer ball. Emma approached him and asked if he was okay. "I missed a goal today at practice," Lucas mumbled. "Everyone else was so fast." Emma smiled kindly. "I used to draw my deer with 4 straight lines for legs. Now they look a bit more real because I kept trying. Maybe if you practice your shots, you'll get your goal next time." Lucas looked surprised. He hadn't thought of his soccer skills the way Emma saw her art. But he wiped his nose, nodded, and promised himself to try again at the next practice. The next week, the school announced an art contest. Emma almost didn't enter, afraid people would laugh at her drawings. But then she remembered how much she loved to draw and how each drawing made her a better artist than the day before. She spent a week working on her magical forest, improving it bit by bit. She didn't worry about what anyone might think. She just drew for the joy of it. When the winners were announced, Emma's drawing didn't win first prize. But as she looked around, she noticed something important. The drawings of the winners weren't perfect either. Every picture showed a bit of practice, a touch of courage, and the special way each artist loved their work. That afternoon, Mrs. Lee hung the art contest drawings in the hallway. "These are all beautiful in their own way," she said. "What matters is that you didn't give up. Every time you try, you get a little bit better. That's how we learn, by practicing, not by being perfect." Emma stood in front of her picture and smiled. Her deer's head was still a little big, and the owl's wings wobbled at the tips, but the forest glowed with color, and the animals danced with joy. She knew she would keep drawing and keep getting better. Years later, when people admired Emma's artwork, they saw magic in her colors and wonder in her shapes. But Emma never forgot the lesson she learned as a kid. Perfection isn't the goal. What matters is being brave enough to keep going, even when things get hard, and letting every mistake help you grow. So remember, just like Emma, if you love something, drawing, soccer, singing, or anything at all, don't worry about being perfect. Just keep practicing, and you'll become better each day. Practice over perfection and a brave heart. That's where the real magic begins. Thanks for tuning in to Smiley Toon TV. If you enjoyed today's journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to keep the smiles coming. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this adventure going together. Stay positive, keep smiling, and let your mind wander. O psyche. Ostryu.